Welcome back now to Afia TV News tonight on our conversation segment. But just before we go on to talk to our guest, there's breaking news here that Nigerian footballer Ademola Lookman has won the award of CAF Footballer of the Year. So congratulations to Ademola Lookman. And now to our conversation, which is ECOWAS approving the exit of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso from the bloc. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has approved the withdrawal of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso from the bloc from January 29, 2025. It, however, gave the three countries up until July next year to reconsider their planned withdrawal from the regional bloc. In a communique after their meeting at the presidential villa on Sunday, the Commission noted the decision of the three countries to withdraw from ECOWAS, adding that they would cease to be members officially from January 2025. The communique read by the President of the ECOWAS Commission, Omar Touray, said, "The authority takes note of the notification by Burkina Faso, the Republic of Mali, and the Republic of Niger of their decision to withdraw from ECOWAS, and the authority acknowledges that in accordance with the provisions of Article 91 of the revised ECOWAS Treaty, the three countries will officially cease to be members of ECOWAS from January 29, 2025. Also, the authority has decided to set the period from 29 January 2025 to 29 July 2025 as a transitional period and to keep ECOWAS doors open to the three countries during the transition period." But in another development, Nigeria has also paid 85 billion naira and $54 million as community levy to ECOWAS, and for the first time in 19 years, Nigeria has decided to pay 100% of its community levy, representing up to 2023. Nigeria paid the sum of 85 billion naira and $54 million representing 100% of the 2023 levy and the level up of 2024 up until July 2024. The money was paid on Friday, December 13, 2024. Well, to speak further on this is Dr. Chikezie Obasi, and he's the Secretary, Guild of Public Analysts of Enugu State. Welcome, sir, and I hope your day went well.
Yeah, it's been fairly bustling and hustling, right. Difficult period. Good evening, Amazing Grace, and good evening, viewers.
Okay, so we're finally here. And of course, maybe some people may have predicted that this was going to happen, especially with the takeover, in different countries. And of course, the withdrawal notice from Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Would we say that this was a long time coming? And what are the implications for the entirety of the bloc?
Why do we have blocks? We have blocks because you want to maintain some, economic strength. You want to maximize population in your environment. You want to have your trade undisturbed. You want to have your security, intact. You want to have communication, within that block so that you can actually make your countries better and stronger. Having us to see our trade brothers, exiting the bloc is not the best, I can tell you, both for ECOWAS and for the nations in question. For some of us who may not have understood this clearer, we could actually see the effect of Brexit on UK, ever since it occurred. Yes, we might see that it has some advantages and disadvantages, but many of us have noted that ever since Britain exited, it has not been the best, for the economy of the country. So back to what we have here, we know clearly how this crisis started. Military juntas took over these nations, and ECOWAS frowns at military juntas taking over leadership because that's not the best. However, we equally appreciate the fact that the pressing of colonial masters, in this case France, had been so terrible on ECOWAS. And by the way, many of us who are Nigerians are not happy that we saw the same French military on our own doorsteps. Many of our African brothers have suffered terribly. And if you really read about the colonial masters, you know that France has not treated Africa with dignity with which it's supposed to be. Even after the other colonial masters left, France has remained, in West Africa. In fact, it's so bad that they've actually frustrated trade and the information of single currency, in West Africa, which would have actually helped us in our trade. So on this note, we understand clearly when these difficulties came, Russia backed these juntas to a reasonable extent, and we saw it being in antagonism with most of the West African leadership, which many of them are aligned to the West. Russia is pro-East, so they became pro-East, and we expect the crisis to deepen. Now it's like there is going to be severance of tie. And the implication is not going to be easy on both countries. We understand clearly that Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are not the wonderful nations when it comes to economic buoyancy. So what may be happening here is that we might be seeing a proxy wars again, or proxy allied forces again in Africa, where you have the other West African nations aligned to the West, having military ties with the West, and you are seeing our brothers, which is clearly aligned to the East. And you might begin to see presence of the, both forces, in West Africa. And this might actually escalate the crisis if we do not take time, in West Africa. So I will tell you clearly, that's not the best for us. On the economic front, it has reduced the size of the population we are going to be trading easily. It's a difficult one, but we have reduced the ties. We are trading freely. Right now, as it is, it may become difficult for you to enter Niger Republic if you're a businessman. It may equally become difficult because the three nations that have been severed will form, economic bloc for themselves and try to protect themselves. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for us. And don't forget, at the top of Africa, you see Libya, that's actually balkanized by war. Libya was a pro-East, and the West, encouraged the crisis in Libya that ousted Saddam Hussein and ousted Muammar Gaddafi, and that country hadn't actually returned or been stabilized. So I'm afraid that if we do not take time, we may be seeing crisis. However, on a good note, I believe that the window period left by ECOWAS up to July, I think July next year, June, July, for them to have a rethink, should be followed with diplomatic understanding and negotiation. I believe clearly that this is the best time West African leaders should be able to rise and say no to colonial masters, whether they are the East or they are the Western Bloc, because it's actually a difficult one, for West Africa. They needed to have an internal trade where the whole of countries in West Africa is equivalent to Europe, over 400 million persons. Nigeria alone is contributing 200 and over 210 million. So it's an economic bloc you can actually leverage on with the young population, which you cannot find elsewhere, but in Africa. So I think we needed to leverage on that and then begin to think inwardly how to develop Africa and not really to balkanize it. Then on the issue of Nigeria paying a debt, it's a good news. If you really want to be a leader in the sub-African nation, sub-Saharan countries, you must be able to have shown leadership by paying your debts. So I must tell you that it is good Nigeria pays a debt. The federal government should follow with economic diplomatic ties to see if our traders and our businessmen can begin to ship our products out of Nigeria, to maximize that particular fund we have actually deposited. But I think, on a good note, I give kudos to the president and the leadership of the country for doing that.
Yeah, so you made very salient points, which some people have also the same opinion with you, that these countries may have seen our president, who happens to be the chairman of ECOWAS at the moment, hobnobbing with France and that didn't look quite pleasant with them. So also, they may have felt that President Tinubu also has too much alliance towards the West, which may have also informed their decision, to break away from the bloc. Now, recall that President Tinubu just came back from France, and then a few weeks later, they've announced their leaving or their retreating from the bloc. So that's pointing to something there. Go ahead. You were saying something. Can you hear me?
Yes, I must tell you that I wasn't happy. The other day I cited the military, French military men. Yes, I said I wasn't happy when I cited them. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Fine. So I said that for me, I wasn't happy with the fact that I saw Mr. President, hobnobbing with the France, because I understand clearly the previous regime wanted to establish a single currency for ECOWAS, and the then President Macron actually had to flee into West Africa and thwarted that plan. That singular plan of having one single currency for West Africa would have enabled us to have a very serious economic bloc in West Africa. We would have equilibrated life in West Africa, would have integrated economics. It would have helped us a lot, just like you have in the Euro bloc. But he single-handedly killed it and made sure that CFA, which they are not using in France, is being used by these countries. So he continuously tied the economic gains, livelihood of France, to what some of us will look at leech. We look at the bleeding by France as a continuous process. And the president has demonstrated what I would say a capacity to destabilizing, if other countries will look at it, destabilizing these nations. I see no reason why French military base should be in Nigeria. And to make the matter worse, the French army is being deployed in Boko Haram, regions. I mean, the northeastern region and probably the far northern region of Nigeria. The countries may begin to look at, because these are military juntas. They don't take security with kid glove. They treat security very seriously. So they may have been looking at this, that probably the France is being left there to assist in fomenting trouble in their country. And I can tell you that if I'm in their shoes, I'll think in like manner. And I'll see it as an act of aggression. It's not that they can't do anything. But I think if Nigeria is acting as big brother, I think they should be able to look inward and begin to look at what binds us. But how far have we gotten from these colonial leeches? I call them leech because they've not actually allowed us to breathe. So I think there's every need for the countries, I mean Nigeria, to begin to redress some of the steps. So as to get these our brothers, we need everything so in Nigeria, we need all we need to get from West Africa to get into us, because Nigeria alone is half of the population of West Africa. And we are so productive. When it comes to human capital index, we are top. When it comes to, education, we are top. So I think Nigeria needs West Africa to make it, our base for regional integration and market.
Well, a lot of people will agree with you and definitely will keep asking when of this colonialism would end in Africa, and when Africa would be allowed the space to grow by themselves and for themselves and to interact freely without the interruptions of the colonial masters. Well, we'll have to keep that conversation coming and of course stop here, because I wanted to ask you, but our time is up, what agenda would the ECOWAS would be looking at, in terms of development, but we have to go now. But thank you so much, Dr. Chikezi Obasi, for your time right here on Afia TV News. Thank you.
Yes, but before I say thank you, I will say something. Africa will not be left, to develop Nobody is going to allow you. You are a prisoner as far as they are looking at it from an economic point of view. This issue started clearly and officially after Berlin Conference in 1884. So if Africa must develop, we must take it by ourselves. The step taken by these three countries by kicking Russia, France out, is what all of us should be able to do. And not only France, but kicking the West and the Eastern Bloc out so that we can actually replan our nation. And until we do that, until our leaders see that, they will not get out of the shackles of neocolonialism. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're right. And we do wait for someday when Africa will truly be one. Thank you so much for your time.